So it looked like Browns ownership is sending a direct, clear message to Kevin Stefanski. It's about to get real, and it's about to be Shador time.
The Cleveland Browns organization is under serious tension tonight. Sources close to the team say Jimmy Haslam has finally delivered the kind of message that can't be ignored, a direct warning to Kevin Stefanski. For weeks, the frustration inside Berea has been building. The offense isn't working, the team is 2-6, and patience has run out. Those around the building describe Haslam as visibly agitated, pacing through conversations with front office members. He's seen what fans have seen: poor decisions, wasted drives, and a coaching staff that refuses to make the obvious change. The call for Shedeur Sanders has grown louder with every loss. What made this situation even more compelling is the shift in tone from ownership. Haslam isn't defending Stefanski anymore. He's not talking about rebuilding or trusting the process. Instead, he's questioning the direction entirely. The message is simple: bench Gabriel or face consequences. Behind the scenes, players can feel the change. Shedeur, the young quarterback who's been grinding away without complaint, is starting to earn quiet respect from teammates. Coaches may not admit it publicly, but they see what's happening. The team's energy has shifted, and the locker room knows something's coming.
Here's the first thing that Jimmy Haslam told Diana Rossini about Shedeur Sanders. He said, "Listen, he's a serious football player, and inside the building, there's no noise," Haslam told her. "He comes to work every day, just like everybody else, and he's trying to get better as a football player. Shedeur is working really hard."
Jimmy Haslam's comments about Shedeur Sanders were more than just a compliment. They were a warning shot. When an NFL owner publicly praises a rookie for his attitude and dedication, it's rarely about encouragement alone. It's about comparison. Haslam was drawing a line between Shedeur's quiet discipline and the visible chaos around the starting quarterback position. Inside the building, people took notice. Stefanski's insistence on sticking with Dillon Gabriel despite poor performances is now being viewed as defiance, not loyalty. Staff members reportedly see Haslam's words as a vote of confidence in Shedeur and a loss of patience with the head coach. Analysts have also highlighted what those comments mean. The owner's children wearing Shedeur's jersey at games wasn't just fan behavior. It was symbolic. It showed where the heart of the organization was shifting. Even in the locker room, players were asking the same question: why isn't Shedeur getting a chance? At this point, the disconnect between Haslam and Stefanski is impossible to hide. Cleveland is divided between a coach trying to protect his decisions and an owner demanding accountability. The stage is set for confrontation, and the team's next move could decide both men's futures.
Tony Rizzo just went off on the Cleveland Browns, calling out the front office, the coaches, and even the quarterback. His message was clear. It's time to stop making excuses and start Shedeur now.
Tony Rizzo's fiery comments echoed through Cleveland like a shockwave. His frustration mirrored that of a restless fan base, tired of excuses, tired of underperforming quarterbacks, and tired of watching the team ignore its most promising player. When he said, "It's time to stop making excuses and start Shedeur now," he voiced what the city had been thinking for months. Rizzo isn't just another talk show host ranting for clicks. He's connected. His criticism carries weight inside the Browns organization. Coaches listen, players react, and ownership always pays attention when local voices turn national. The problem is his words cut deep, exposing how out of sync the Browns' leadership truly is. This wasn't about one bad game. It was about a pattern. The same failed formula of trusting the wrong quarterback and defending weak coaching choices. Rizzo simply said what everyone knew: Dillon Gabriel isn't the answer, and the Browns can't move forward until they admit that. Since then, internal conversations have reportedly grown tense. Haslam is hearing the noise, and the spotlight on Stefanski is getting hotter. Everyone can sense it. The Browns' next move will be either a turning point or a full collapse.
Shedeur is coming. From what I'm hearing, Jimmy Haslam is about to come down with the gavel of a lifetime. Pow! He ain't playing with Kevin Stefanski.
Jimmy Haslam's frustration has reached its peak. When he brought down the gavel, it wasn't just a figure of speech. It was a declaration that leadership changes are officially on the table. The Browns' ownership rarely gets this involved, but Haslam's silence over the past weeks had already spoken volumes. Now, insiders are confirming what many suspected. The owner has lost faith in Kevin Stefanski's judgment. Reports suggest Haslam was deeply unimpressed with the handling of the quarterback situation. Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round rookie who continues to earn praise for his work ethic, remains sidelined while Dillon Gabriel stumbles through mistake after mistake. The offense is stagnant, morale is falling, and fans are furious. Haslam's reaction is not about emotion, it's about investment. He's poured millions into a team that's gone nowhere. When your product on the field becomes an embarrassment, heads start to roll. Coaches, coordinators, even executives. No one feels safe right now. Behind closed doors, people have begun whispering that Haslam is preparing for a major organizational reset. Whether that means firing Stefanski immediately or giving him one last chance remains unclear. But one thing is certain, Haslam isn't waiting quietly anymore.
Shedeur didn't get any reps in NFL action then. And finally, this Sunday against the Patriots, all of a sudden Shedeur was inactive with a back injury. A lot of people think this is suspicious. I don't like to be the one to speculate, but I do think it's suspicious that it didn't show up until Friday/Saturday, and all of a sudden,
the story took an unexpected twist when Shedeur Sanders was listed as inactive due to a back injury. On paper, it sounded routine, but on game day, fans noticed something strange. Shedeur had been warming up just minutes before kickoff. Reporters questioned the timing, calling it suspicious, and the speculation exploded across social media. Was this really about health? Or was it another layer of internal politics? The optics were terrible. The Browns were losing badly. Dillon Gabriel was floundering again, and the one player who could shake things up was suddenly unavailable. Even seasoned analysts like Skip Bayless chimed in, questioning the legitimacy of the injury and hinting at organizational dysfunction. Inside the Browns facility, trust is eroding. Players talk quietly about what's really happening, and coaches dodge questions in press conferences. It's the kind of drama that usually leads to bigger fallout, the type that owners hate. Meanwhile, Haslam's patience continues to thin. Every time Gabriel struggles, the crowd grows louder for Shedeur. The injury might have bought Stefanski one more week, but it also raised more questions about his credibility. And now, the public narrative has shifted from performance issues to accusations of manipulation.
And Dillon Gabriel play horrible. Shedeur get hurt. Just surprisingly, Shedeur is hurt every time Dillon Gabriel play bad. I'm talking about extremely bad to where you can make no excuses for Dillon Gabriel and need to pull him out the game. But Shedeur was hurt. The preseason game and then this game. I don't know what it is.
Tony Rizzo's follow-up comments hit like an investigative report. He dissected the Browns' decisions, pointing out how every time Dillon Gabriel played poorly, something mysterious seemed to happen to Shedeur. It wasn't coincidence, it was a pattern. They're trying to bury him, Rizzo said, and the evidence was starting to back him up. The claim may sound harsh, but context matters. This is a franchise that's been desperate to prove its quarterback strategy right. Stefanski handpicked Gabriel and built his offense around him. To admit that decision failed would be to admit his entire plan was flawed. That's the kind of ego that kills teams. Rizzo's commentary became a rallying cry for fans. It painted a picture of a coach protecting his pride over the team's success. The message spread across talk shows, podcasts, and national coverage. Cleveland's leadership isn't developing its talent, it's suppressing it. Within the locker room, that noise has consequences. Players see who's getting chances and who's not. They notice favoritism. And once that doubt creeps in, it's hard to get it out. Stefanski's leadership has never been weaker, and Haslam knows it. The decision he makes next could define his ownership legacy.
Well, whatever the changes they make are going to be made above Kevin Stefanski. So whatever he said after the game, I would just take with a grain of salt. I think everything's on the table.
At this point, the control of the Cleveland Browns was clearly slipping away from Kevin Stefanski. When insiders began reporting that decisions were now being made above him, it confirmed what everyone had suspected. ownership had lost confidence. Jimmy Haslam, known for his hands-on style when things spiral, was now stepping directly into football matters. Multiple league sources described the Browns' front office as split. On one side, Stefanski still wanted to prove that his offensive vision could work with Dillon Gabriel. On the other, executives were quietly aligning with Haslam's push for a change. The message was unmistakable. If the head coach won't adapt, the organization will adapt without him. For years, Cleveland's biggest issue hasn't been talent. It's been ego. Too many decision-makers pulling in opposite directions. Too many public promises with no results to show. Now, as ownership takes over the discussion, one reality looms large. The leash on Stefanski has never been shorter. It's no longer about potential or patience. It's about survival. Haslam's involvement signals that everything, from the play calling to the quarterback depth chart, is up for review. When the boss starts calling the shots directly, it usually ends one way. Somebody's getting replaced.
They asked Kevin Stefanski about this, if he was going to stick with Gabriel, and he said, the Browns need to evaluate everywhere, but yes, we're sticking with Gabriel. And of course, that was one of the first questions asked after an awful performance against the Patriots.
Kevin Stefanski's post-game statement after the Patriots' loss was the final straw for many fans. We're sticking with Gabriel, he said, a line that instantly flooded social media with outrage. The Browns had just suffered another humiliating offensive performance, and yet the head coach doubled down. It felt tone-deaf, stubborn, and detached from reality. Across the fan base, frustration reached a boiling point. Former players began calling the situation embarrassing, while analysts labeled the decision career suicide. Even within the locker room, whispers began that Stefanski's words were less about strategy and more about self-preservation. Every coach knows when the pressure is on, but his response sounded like a man refusing to read the room. Jimmy Haslam, meanwhile, wasn't silent. He watched that press conference with the same disbelief as everyone else. This wasn't leadership, it was denial. The gap between the head coach and ownership had become public, and once that happens in the NFL, recovery is nearly impossible. At this stage, the Browns didn't just have a quarterback problem. They had a leadership crisis. Stefanski's insistence on defending his decision had alienated everyone who mattered, from ownership to the fan base. And in Cleveland, that combination usually ends one way, a pink slip.
I'm calling out ownership. I'm calling out Jimmy D and J.W. Johnson. How are you going to sell this to me and the rest of your fan base? You can't bring these people back. You can't.
When Tony Rizzo called out Jimmy Haslam and J.W. Johnson directly, the conversation shifted from football to accountability. How are you going to sell this to your fan base? He asked. And that question cut to the heart of the Browns' identity crisis. This was no longer about a struggling quarterback. It was about the organization's credibility. Rizzo's critique wasn't just emotional. It was surgical. He laid bare how ownership and coaching were trapped in their own contradictions. The team preaches development, but buries its most talented rookie. They talk about culture, but reward mediocrity. The front office speaks of long-term vision while operating week to week. It's the same cycle Cleveland fans have seen for decades. Inside Berea, these words resonated. Haslam is no stranger to criticism, but when respected voices start questioning the franchise's direction, it stings. The pressure is no longer just on Stefanski. It's on ownership to prove they still have control of their team. For Haslam, this moment feels defining. The next few games won't just determine wins and losses. They'll shape how his tenure as owner is remembered. Either he steps up and cleans house, or the Browns remain the same chaotic, inconsistent team that fans are tired of defending.
We're a joke. The play calling's a mess. We have 5 gimmick plays, and once you're out of that, we can't do anything on offense. We couldn't score until under 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter after the very first drive of the game.
As the season dragged on, the cracks in Cleveland's system became impossible to ignore. Analysts described the Browns' offense as a collection of gimmicks, 5 creative plays, and then nothing. Once those tricks ran out, the team had no identity, no rhythm, and no plan B. It was a damning reflection of coaching failure at every level. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were embarrassed. Every press conference sounded like déjà vu, the same recycled lines about execution and details. Yet nothing changed. The statistics were brutal, bottom tier in points per game, turnovers piling up, and a quarterback who looked completely lost. Within the locker room, trust began to fracture. Players whispered about play calling confusion and lack of accountability. Some veterans reportedly stopped believing in Stefanski's message altogether. You can feel when a team quits, and Cleveland was teetering on that edge. Ownership, meanwhile, was running out of patience. The product on the field was reflecting poorly on everyone upstairs. For a team that promised a new era of stability, it felt like history repeating itself. At this point, the question wasn't whether changes were coming. It was how drastic they'd be.
Because they sending a clear message to Kevin Stefanski. Time is running out, player.
Time is running out. Those words echoed across every sports radio station in Cleveland. Insiders confirmed that Jimmy Haslam had personally stepped into conversations with senior staff, and his tone left no room for interpretation. The warning was official. If things don't change soon, heads will roll. For Kevin Stefanski, this was the breaking point. His confidence in press conferences was gone. The usually composed coach now looked drained, defensive, and uncertain. It's the look of a man who knows the walls are closing in. Every loss, every missed opportunity adds another nail to the coffin. Haslam, meanwhile, has shifted from silent frustration to open discontent. He's begun reaching out to external advisors, reviewing contracts, and preparing for what appears to be an inevitable coaching change. Cleveland's ownership isn't known for patience, and with fan sentiment collapsing, they can't afford another lost season. Players sense it too. There's tension in the locker room, uncertainty in the air, and the media can smell blood. Everyone knows something big is coming. It's only a matter of when. Stefanski's tenure may have started with promise, but now it feels like a countdown.
Be a man, Kevin, and just say, look, I made a mistake. We should have never drafted Dillon Gabriel at all. And if you did want to draft Dillon Gabriel, we should have took Shador first.
By the time media figures started telling Kevin Stefanski to be a man and admit his mistake, it was already too late. The narrative had turned against him completely. What began as mild skepticism had evolved into open criticism, and Stefanski's credibility was gone. Fans weren't asking for explanations anymore. They were demanding accountability. Every sports show, every headline, and every podcast carried the same message. Cleveland's head coach had mismanaged his roster, mishandled his quarterbacks, and misread the moment. It's a brutal cycle in professional sports. Once the public loses faith, it's nearly impossible to win it back. Shedeur Sanders' name had become a lightning rod for everything wrong with the Browns. To many, he represented the future the franchise refused to embrace. And to Jimmy Haslam, he symbolized the change that had to happen, with or without Stefanski's approval. Behind the scenes, sources claim the decision has already been made. It's no longer a question of if Stefanski will be replaced, but when. The ownership's patience has snapped, and the message is unmistakable. Bench Dillon Gabriel or start packing. Cleveland's front office has chosen its direction, and it doesn't include Kevin Stefanski.